Hello and welcome back to Incredible Inverts and Other Animals with me, Phil. Or if it's your first time watching one of my videos, then welcome, and please do me on it and hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you know every time I upload another video. Now before we get started with today's video, I just want to give a massive shout out for the guys over at the Natural History Cupboard podcast. They kindly invited me on to interview me for their latest podcast episode, which should be coming up today when this video comes out, so this Sunday. So once you watch this video, please do go ahead and check out the podcast. I'll put links down in the description, as well as links to their social media as well, to keep up to date with them. It's a fantastic podcast. One of the hosts is a friend of mine, and they're all colleagues essentially. Two of them are zookeepers, and one is an ex-zookeeper at another zoo. And one of the main hosts, Gareth, is a fellow invertebrate zookeeper, so that's how we got to know each other. And we've known each other for a few years now. And this year they started up a podcast, much in the same way as why I kind of started up this YouTube channel about a year ago. More almost, I think about a year now going with the channel, which is amazing to think. I didn't feel I'd go for a year and even reach, well, I've reached 300 subscribers before reaching a year, which is amazing. Thank you everyone that has subscribed so far. But yeah, they started it kind of the same way. For over a year now, haven't done any talks at the zoo because we're not allowed to at the moment. And we both, all sort of four of us, have missed doing talks. Sometimes we moan about talks, but we've missed doing talks of passing on our passion, our knowledge of our animals that we look after. So that's one of the reasons I started this channel. So that's sort of one of the reasons that these guys have started their podcast as just an outlet for that, to discuss things, to hopefully try and teach people about the wonderful world of animals. So I do go and check that out. I think it's a fantastic podcast. I've listened to every episode since it started. Enjoyed every single one. There's always something a bit different in there. They cover all sorts of things to do with natural history. They have little bits of news each week. They sometimes have a creature feature, so they'll talk about a particular animal or even a prehistoric animal. So they cover dinosaurs as well and stuff, and sort of prehistoric mammals and reptiles and stuff, as well as obviously modern day animals. They have interviews. So on the latest interview, but they've had some other friends of mine, Steve Trim from Venom Tech and Stephen Elaine, who's a herpetologist and stuff, on there. So I'm honoured to be on the same sort of podcast as those guys. So they also cover things with pop culture as well that are to do with kind of animals and stuff, where things come from. They have a word of the week, sometimes where they'll discuss a certain word and what that word means. So I've certainly learned some things actually by listening to their podcast, which is fantastic. So please do go ahead and check that out. So in today's video, going back to introducing you to another animal, we're going to be introducing you to a species of mammal that lives here at the zoo that I work at. We're going to be introducing to the absolutely wonderful capybara. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we have the capybara, or Hydrotraeus hydrochaeris. Now, the capybara is the largest of all rodents, and they come from Southern America, and well, from most countries in South America. And they are often found very near water, and that's because they are semi-aquatic. So if you ever manage to sort of get a close look at a capybara, they do have partially webbed feet, which helps with their swimming. And their scientific name kind of loosely means water pig. And that's both their genus name and their species name derives from the words for water pig. And yeah, that kind of describes what they kind of are like. Of course, they're not a pig at all, but they are very much kind of a similar sort of size, and almost kind of a similar shape. So yeah, people kind of see them, and that's what they kind of think of them. And they're almost, as well, kind of like the South American equivalent of a hippo, just much, much smaller. Now, being semi-aquatic, when you look at their head, their eyes, their ears, their nostrils are very much in a straight line, which means they can submerge to that level with only those bits poking out of the water. Now, here at the part that I work at, we currently have 4 capybaras. We have an adult male and female, and their 2 babies. which are still very playful, as you hopefully see here. So we have two, or the babies are both young males. They are both very, very playful with each other and do like to try and play with their parents. Not that the parents necessarily want to be played with all the time. As you can see from Dad here, Paz wasn't too impressed with Pio kind of jumping on his head, but that doesn't stop Pio having another go and kind of trying to annoy Dad as much as possible, as you can see here. Now, capybaras are very much a kind of a herd animal, so they will be in groups. Average in the wild is around sort of 10 to 20, but they can be in groups of up to 100, sometimes more. Often with a dominant male and a harem of females. They are a prey species, so things like jaguars and even some large caimans will happily prey on adult capybaras, and certainly younger ones, things like anacondas, again will happily prey on the youngsters, and even some sort of the smaller adults, but the large, big adults are probably a bit too big for an anaconda to take down. So, as I said, these are the largest of all the rodents, and they're actually in the same family as guinea pigs. So they are part of the cavies. So a lot of people, when they do see the capybaras, they kind of think, oh, they do look a bit like a giant guinea pig. And that is correct there. They are a giant semi-aquatic guinea pig. Now, being semi-aquatic, their fur does kind of repel water fairly well. You might be able to see here between the adults and the babies, their fur is actually quite different to each other. The adults' fur is much coarser than the youngsters. Youngsters are certainly much softer and to touch. With these guys, we are able to get really close to them. We are able to kind of touch them pretty much all over. At least one of our workers, one of our keepers, he's certainly able to pretty much do anything with the capybaras. He spent a lot of time training them and getting them used to him, which is really useful in terms of making sure that they are healthy and that there's nothing sort of wrong with them. Now, diet-wise, they are herbivores, so they eat basically a lot of vegetation matter. So within their paddock, everything is pretty much edible. So it's a lot of grazing, as well as we do give them lots of vegetables, various fruits, and then browse. So what we call browse is basically tree branches that are full of leaves. So we have trees growing in their paddock that are edible. So we'll just chop down a couple of branches, and they'll go browse all that and eat the bark and stuff and chew on the wood, and that's all important for their teeth. As like all rodents, their teeth are continually growing. So it's important that we keep an eye on their teeth, but we provide things for them to gnaw on to keep those teeth down. And they also get pellets as well. So they do get guinea pig pellets and guinea pig mix, which is just your common guinea pig food, as well as some more specialist pellets, browser pellets and grazer pellets and stuff for them. This will just helps give a nice variety of food and helps keep them in top tip condition. The capybaras can be very vocal, especially the youngsters we have here. So they can often be heard making various squeaks and squeals, very much like guinea pigs. So if you keep guinea pigs, think of that sort of noise, and is pretty much what the babies make. Adults are a bit less vocal. The male will kind of roar-ish when it's sort of the breeding season, when the female's in heat. And they're also, both the adults will kind of bark if they feel threatened. So if they decide we've got sort of too close to them, they are prey species. Although they're used to us, they don't necessarily know what we're doing. So if we're out in the paddock mucking out, or if I'm in there, sort of collecting food for another animal or whatever, and I walk up to them and a bit too close for their comfort, they will bark as they jump out of the way. And this is an alarm call to alert all the other capybaras in the area that there's a potential threat. And as they are prey species, so they're always on high alert. Now, and that's really important that they keep that sort of natural wild behaviour. So although, like I say, they are used to us and they will come up to us for food and stuff, and we do experiences with them at the park, it's also important that they keep their natural behaviours and keep that awareness about them. And that's something that we really, really value within captivity and within the zoo industry. So Now, luckily, these guys are classed as least concern by the IUCN, so that means that their populations are stable, but it does mean they do face threats. So habitat destruction is one of the biggest threats. They are also sort of hunted for their meat and their pelts as well, so there's someone that we have to sort of keep an eye on. So although, like I say, yeah, they are least concerned, it won't be too long before they could become sort of vulnerable. Again, if we keep sort of destroying the habitat. Now here you can see how they are really well adapted to life in the water. So they do spend a lot of time in the water, especially on hot days. They will wallow in mud and come into a pond to cool down. But they also use water as their toilet. So this pond does get fairly messy. Has to be netted out every day, but it doesn't stop them. So they'll always, or they favour going in water because they'll kind of mask the scent. So hopefully something like a jaguar can't smell that they're there. But as you can hopefully see there, they're really, really speedy in the water. And can swim incredibly well. We never really know where they're going to pop up again, but you can just about follow the sort of shape of them, of the babies underneath the water. They also sometimes pretend to be dolphins by breaching the water, or trying to breach. There we go. They have an absolute blast within here. And they'll even go in the water, especially the adults, sort of in winter time as well here. So you can get cold, but they'll still go into water if they can. So if they can't get into any deep water, they'll find even just a puddle, and they will absolutely wallow in that. We sometimes make a muddy puddle for them as well, and they love covering themselves in mud. That'll help cool them down as well. And then even as that dries and flakes off, that can take off obviously things like dead skin off them, any kind of parasites that might get on them. And that's something that they would do in the wild. So it's really important that they always have access, or as much as possible, have access to a nice water area for them to have fun in. So, but there are sometimes occasions where we can't sometimes allow them to have access to deeper water, and that might be again right in the sort of middle of winter. If it starts freezing over, that could be a potential problem. So, but we still give them access to some water that obviously get into, and then of course they do have drinking water that's kept nice and fresh. But we have to be careful that they can't sort of reach into it to defecate, because otherwise they will. So they'll choose to just go in there as well, which can be quite annoying. So you sometimes have to change their water a few times a day. So I would try and keep that kind of up just high enough so they can reach it with their heads, but can't reach it with anything else. So, but they will sometimes remove the buckets and tip them over and stuff. So they can be quite cheeky as well, but they are, as you can see, that they are absolutely fantastic animals. There you can see they absolutely love having to play around with the adults as well in the water. It's great fun annoying mum, and so and chasing her around and getting her to chase you. And this is what they sort of do, especially towards the end of a nice day here at the park. If it's been a nice warm day, come the sort of early evening, we're closed, all the public's gone, so it's time to have a real good play around. So yeah, it took a few minutes just to have a bit of a stop and just appreciate the capybara, as he's right next to my bog building. So I do see these quite often. And a couple of the other keepers were here as well, and we just it took a few minutes just to kind of enjoy and watch the capybaras have a nice time. And in the water, they can hold their breath for up to 5 minutes underwater. And this is obviously to escape predation, to hide from predators. And so often in the wild, they'll actually be sort of more active and come out to graze around dawn and dusk, and spend then most of the day in the water, again, to hide from predators. And again, then it's easy to quickly dive underneath. In the wild, there are actually a lot of water plants, so more hyacinth and stuff, as well as sort of the grasses and stuff on the banks. And in captivity, these guys can live up to 12 years, with the average being around 8. So they can live a fairly long time. Obviously in the wild, that's pretty much almost halved as a lifespan. Obviously there's lots of predation involved as well as hunting. And then also sometimes competition for food as well. Fights, they can inflict really nasty injuries on each other, especially two males fighting over females. They got very much chisel-like teeth, and it absolutely rips through their skin. And yeah, some really nasty injuries can be seen on capybaras in the wild, as well as in captivity if they decide to have a fight. And sometimes introductions don't go smoothly. It can take a while, and it's important to know as well kind of when to intervene. When our male was introduced to our female at first, she really didn't like him, and there was a few fights going on. So, and even with these play fights that we see here with the babies and the parents, again, you know, you still have to keep a close eye, because even with play fights can get quite rough. So, and they always coming up with little nicks on them and little injuries and stuff. So it's really important to know, what's a serious injury and what isn't. Sometimes what looks like a serious injury for a capybara isn't at all. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that look at the capybara, and hopefully you'll agree, as always, they are fantastic animals. I love having these guys at the park. I don't really work with them all that much. I do some of the experiences with them that the public book. So, but yeah, they're fantastic animals. They're fantastic to watch, especially the babies. So sometimes they've got, you know, maybe just a few minutes there, and they're playing in the pond. It's fantastic just to sometimes just stand there, sometimes towards the end of the day, and just kind of chill a bit, watching the capybaras having a bit of a play. And so someone's nothing better than that. So yeah, they're really great animals. And so as you can see, but hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Please put some comments down below. Also, again, please do subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell for notifications. Do go and check out the Natural History Cupboard podcast. You'll check out the episode that I was on, but also check out all their episodes. They're all fantastic. So, and also remember to check out the Adventurous Keepers Adorable Creatures live stream, which is every Sunday at 8 PM. On various channels: Eddie's Bug Babies, Mark the Spider Guy, Glorified Pet Rock, Spider Mum 1978. I'm often on there now as well. So, and there's also Carolina Spiders as well. And so do check all those guys out. Join the live stream, join in the live chat, and so it's always great fun. Various different things go on. But yeah, it's always great on every Sunday evening. So, with that, take care, stay safe, keep rocking.